This question is taken from the IEB paper from November 2023, paper 1. VAT is calculated at 15%, which is the current VAT rate. I always find it easiest to do the VAT calculations by doing my little calculation triangle. You don't actually have to use a triangle, but it sometimes helps you to remember that when you're dealing with percentages like this, there's usually 3 numbers involved. And so the triangle just reminds you of that. Obviously, the first thing you'll put in is the 15%, which relates to the VAT. The next question that you need to ask yourself is 15% of what? Because whatever it's a percentage of is your base or your 100%. In this case, it's 15% of the exclusive price, which means the inclusive amount would be 115%. Once you've worked that out, then any number that's given that you need to go and calculate VAT or an exclusive or inclusive amount with, you can take the number given and say times the percentage that I want over the percentage of what I've been given. And that will then give you your answer very nicely. We're told that the SARS VAT account has a credit balance at the beginning of 34,400. A credit balance means that we owe SARS. How do I know that? Well, if I draw a little accounting equation, assets equals equity plus liabilities, remember that your debits and credits are based on that. And if we look at the T account that I've just created, you can see that on the credit side, we find the liability, which tells us we owe SARS. Number 1, the purchased goods marked at 8,800 exclusive before a 7.5% trade discount was allowed. Now, obviously, we'll start our calculation using the 8,800. If we know that that is exclusive, it means that when I'm working out my VAT amount, I need to make sure that the exclusive or the 100% is at the bottom. And then obviously I'm going to be looking for VAT at the top because that's what I want. However, I now also need to take into account the 7.5% trade discount. We can just calculate 7.5% and then subtract it, but that's actually quite a long way around, and it's much easier to do it all in one step. If you wanted to, you could draw your little triangle again just to help you see what's going on. We know that the discount is 7.5%. Ask yourself, a discount is a 7.5% of what? The 100% is the original marked price, which means that the invoice amount will only be 92.5%. So in our calculation, can you see that you can take a shortcut and simply say, I want my invoice amount of 92.5 over, I've got the original price of 100. And once you've done that, you should get a nice answer of 1,221 Rand. If we're buying something, it means that goods are coming into the business and we've paid the supplier already. So we can claim that VAT back from SARS, and so it would decrease the amount that we owe to SARS. A debtor paid 5,625 after a 5% settlement discount was allowed. Obviously, we can use our 5,4,625 as our beginning amount. But then to work out the settlement discount itself, we'll do a little triangle again to see how the percentages are calculated. There's a 5% settlement discount. Notice that a settlement discount is slightly different from a trade discount in that the settlement discount will be recorded as discount allowed or discount received in your accounting records. In this case, though, it doesn't actually make much difference. We're now wanting to reverse the discount amount because we haven't received that from the customer. SARS doesn't expect us to pay VAT on an amount that we haven't actually received or won't ever get. And so they allow us to claim back that settlement discount. That means that it'll decrease the amount that we owe to SARS. The 5% discount is obviously a discount of the amount that is owing, which means that the amount that is actually going to be paid will be 95%. So if that 54,625 is the amount that was paid, that means that is 95%. So you're going to put 95 at the bottom because that's the amount paid. And obviously you're looking for the discount, so you'll put the discount at the top. We then also need to look at the VAT of this because all that we've worked out now is the discount. So to get the VAT, obviously we're looking for VAT, so we'll put 15 at the top. And we'll this time say over the inclusive amount of 115, if we have a look at our triangle over there, because the amount that is owed by the debtor is inclusive. It includes the VAT on that transaction. So we'll say over 115. And that will give us an answer of 375 Rand. Number 3, a debtor whose account of 6095 had been written off as bad returned to pay us the amount in full. Just like with the discount, if we don't expect to get an amount from a customer, SARS allows us to claim it back. So when we write off bad debts, we would claim that VAT back. However, if this person has now returned, it means that we now do need to pass that over to SARS because we did actually receive the VAT. So it means that our amount owing to SARS will increase. Will you start with the amount of 6095? This one doesn't involve any discounts or anything, so we can go straight to the VAT amount. Obviously, we'll say times 15 because we're looking for the VAT over, again, this was an amount that was owed by a debtor, and therefore it would have been inclusive. And so we'll put it over 115 because it's the inclusive amount. That will then give us 795. And you're done.